So, April Fool's Day is upon us once again. That means it's time for me to do stuff out of my target demographic. Well, hopefully this is posted on April Fool's Day. There's a chance it might be late. For those of you who don't know about VivziePop's Hazbin Hotel and Hell of a Boss, I highly recommend you check it out. It is such an interesting series. Hazbin Hotel involves Lucifer's daughter, Charlie, trying to rehabilitate sinners and send them to heaven instead of them being killed off due to Hell's overpopulation. Its spin-off show, Hell of a Boss, follows a group of imps whose job it is to murder people in the living world for those who have already passed. The lore of heaven and hell and demons and what these sinners look like have made lore enthusiasts go absolutely crazy, myself included. According to VivziePop, sinners' appearances say a lot about both their life and their death. Hell of a Boss has given us a lot of information that has helped us and shows us what these demon forms say about these sinners. As recently seen from Lyle Lipton, a recently introduced character, we can see that how a person dies does indeed impact how they look like in hell. So I'm going to use my attention to detail, knowledge of history, and a few other fan speculations I've heard going around to determine how each character perished. All in one video. Maybe one day I'll do a how did they go to hell kind of video, but for now, I'm just going to do the death stuff. Maybe I'll expand if I really feel passionate about it. Also, I will be excluding the following characters. Angel Dust's brother, Arachnus, will receive a new design when he appears, so as you can guess, I can't really speculate if he's going to get a new design. And Henroine might have the same issue as well. And apparently Rosie never died. So these three will be excluded from my list. Anyways, without further delay, let's become mini coroners and determine how these characters died. First, let's go over the deaths that we do know. Angel Dust died from a drug overdose in 1947. This makes sense as there are no X's or blood spots or any physical marks on his body, just like Vaggie and Nifty have. Baxter, I have more to discuss. Baxter died by drowning on a ship in the 1910s. It was going to be the Titanic, but Vivzie stated that she was unsure how much she wanted to tie real-world events into the show. Baxter still did die on a boat in the 1910s, though it may not be the Titanic. I understand not wanting to make light of tragic events that happened, especially if they're recent events, so I understand why she wants to go that route. When tying history into fiction, you have to be very careful in order to portray it in a certain way. However, for an event as popular as the Titanic, I'm pretty sure there is very little controversy to be had with that. Sometimes tying history into fiction can be a very good thing. When that is done, sometimes it brings attention and awareness to these events and educates people about them and the fine details. Going back to Baxter, we see that he is not only a fish, but an anglerfish. This actually tells us more details of his death. I'm not sure if you understand why Baxter being an anglerfish is super interesting. The Titanic wreckage lies 3,800 meters, or 12,500 feet, below sea level, in an area known as the Bathyal Zone, or the Midnight Zone. Sunlight does not reach this zone, so the Titanic is permanently in darkness. Okay, yeah, Kolka, we get it. That's why Baxter has a light on his head. No, it gets even better. MollyBrown.org states that the animals that live in that zone include viperfish, eels, and you guessed it, anglerfish. So we can assume that Baxter didn't even get out of his cabin and went down with the ship. No life jacket. He either chose to go down with the ship like the Strasses, or was trapped in his room. Anyways, onto the theory part of the video. Alistair is a fan favorite of the series, so there's been a lot of theories on why Alistair is a deer. We do know that he had a dog-related death in 1933, and detests dogs as a result. We also know that he hates the way he died. Notice the X on his forehead right here. X's, I believe, are physical marks from when that character was killed. My theory is that when he was burying one of his victims in the forest, he was mistaken for a deer and shot by a hunter, then mauled by dogs to finish him off, thus taking the form of a deer in hell as he was mistaken for one when he died. The deer form could also be a Wendigo reference, as Alistair was a serial killer and possible cannibal. The Wendigo is known to invoke feelings of insatiable greed and hunger, the desire to cannibalize other humans, as well as the propensity to commit murder and those that fall under its influence. So I think the deer thing has multiple meanings, both referring to how he died and how he lived. There's a lot of theories as to why this sweet little cutie pie is in hell. We know that she died in the 1950s, but I'm going to agree with Charles J. Thomas's theory here, but I'm going to expand on it a bit. By the way, Charles J. Thomas does a lot of Hazbin Hotel theories, so I suggest you check him out. I think that Nifty was a stalker or obsessed with the man she really liked. When the guy got married or engaged, she was probably upset and killed the girl and was either shot by the person she was stalking or was shot by the police, as seen by those 3 red spots on her chest. Yeah, Nifty being a yandere seems to fit due to her fixation on men and romance and her tendency to become easily obsessed with things such as cleaning and killing rats. Katie Killjoy died in 1992 and most certainly died from a broken neck, as seen from this scene, because her neck bends in ways that are unnatural. I think Katie Killjoy was a news reporter in real life. Perhaps she was news reporting by a cliff, fell off, and broke her neck. But I do have an alternate theory that is probably more likely. Her full demon form kind of resembles that of a praying mantis, so I think she probably killed her husband as her sin, as praying mantises eat the males' heads after mating. So maybe that happened, and then, while she was running away, she tripped down the stairs, broke her neck, and died. Though the mantis thing could be an allegory to her promiscuity, since she apparently sleeps with dozens of men. Vaggie died in 2014. I'm pretty sure what killed Vaggie was a stab to the face, specifically through the eye. The context of that? I don't know. Honestly, Vaggie's death and backstory is the hardest and most frustrating for me to theorize. Through analyzing her character, it's hard to imagine why she's in hell in the first place, as she seems so committed to redemption and seems like a good person. Her original design was said to be based on a moth's and had something relating to suicide, but that's been recalled, so we don't know what creature she's supposed to be based on either. So you can imagine the theorist's frustration with this character. According to one of the creators, Vaggie is bad at handling children, so the thought of her having to take care of younger siblings is probably not likely. Many seem to think she was abused or trafficked during her lifetime and simply retaliated against her abuser, thus why she hates men and doesn't trust them. After all, El Salvador does have a major sex trafficking problem, specifically with women from rural areas. But I don't think self-defense would be enough to get you into hell. My main theory for now is that she grew up in a poor family, one where her father wasn't around, and tried to make money for them through prostitution and other sinful deeds like stealing, scamming, and perhaps even murder, until she got into a disagreement with a client and he ended up killing her, stabbing her through the eye. This theory would explain the X's on her chest and why it looks like she's wearing lingerie. Also, if we are keeping the moth thing, moths, I guess, are creatures of the night, which can refer to women of the night, aka prostitutes. This sounds like a stretch, but when you think about the other moth demon that literally runs the porn industry in hell, it doesn't seem like that much of a stretch after all. There is one other theory that I have, though, and that is that Vaggie was forced to be an assassin. You know, like a Maki Harukawa. Or she used to lure people into deadly scams. That's the only way I can explain her proficiency with weapons. I know it's not as dramatic or tragic as many were expecting, though. But it would make sense if she got stabbed in the eye from something like that, and it would absolutely explain why she's in hell. If this is the case, then she probably died when someone tried to defend themselves from her. Husk died in the 1970s, most likely of alcoholism, seeing that he has no marks to indicate wounds on his body, and it just fits with his character, so I think it's a very safe bet. Mimsy is a character of mystery. She was probably a movie star since there are film reels in a lot of her old art, and she probably did a lot of sinful things to get to her goal. Since there are no marks on her body, it's hard to determine the cause of death. But there are what appear to be teeth marks on her dress, so I theorize that her sin was gluttony, implying that she died of a drug or an alcohol overdose. I think she died consuming something to excess. Tom Trench died in the 1910s during World War I. Gases used during World War I including chlorine, mustard gas, bromine, and phosgene. And the most prolific user of gas warfare was the German army. It's pretty easy to see that he died of a gas attack during World War I, hence why the gas mask is now permanently part of his face, since it was what he would have needed to survive his death. Serpentius died in 1888. I don't think that there's any debate on how Serpentius died. I think most everyone can agree it was an invention failure. Serpentius was an inventor in his life. Then something exploded when Serpentius fucked up, and now he's dead. I think that's all there is to it. Moths are known to be creatures of the night, and so are prostitutes. I would like to think that Valentino was just as promiscuous on Earth as he is in Hell. Since there are no visible marks, I think he died of syphilis or some other STD. Since he looks like he died of the 1980s when safe sex wasn't much of a thought in the 1970s. I think Velvet's main sin was vanity, and she paid the price for it since she seems obsessed with her appearance. I really like the theory from Blue Raven 666 that says that she was texting and driving, but I think that she was looking in the mirror or doing her makeup while driving, since she kind of looks like a clown. Because of this, Velvet killed others and herself due to this negligence. Vox died in the 1950s. Vox was probably a TV host in his lifetime, hence the big TV. Though it would be funny if he was just a random TV salesman and got crushed by a TV by accident. And now he's an overlord of hell. That would be interesting. But judging by his suit, he was probably a TV host. His death was probably an accident on set, like a stage light falling on him. It just seems to fit. What if someone did drop a TV on his head? Okay, now that would be funny. Cherry Bomb died in the 1980s in Australia. Judging by the X on her chest, she was probably shot in the chest at an anarchist rally during one of her tirades. As seen in the official art, the X isn't just stylistic in this case, but it is a part of her body. I would tie her to some historical event which would help determine the cause of death, but Vivzy is specifically staying away from that, so I'm out of luck. She was probably doing something dangerous, something involving endangering the lives of others, most likely through explosives, and authorities, trying to take her down, shot her. I don't think the X on her eye has anything to do with her death, but rather a fixation on extreme actions. Also, we see this exact trait in Hunter, so I think this is just a design thing rather than an indication of her death. We're not sure if Criminy is a hellhound or a sinner, but I'm going to do a theory for her anyways. If she is a sinner, it would be cool if she resembled a dog in hell, because in life, she was known to be a bitch. I think that would be a good pun. I mean, you have Angel Dust and his family's web of crime, so they're all spiders. Maybe Criminy's just a grade A bitch. If she is a human, it's really hard to determine her death. But since it's the 90s and she's a rebellious delinquent, I'm going to say car accident from reckless driving, but it's just a guess. Travis is probably in hell due to infidelity, but how did he get there? Well, since we don't see any marks on him, maybe Travis just died of old age? Or alcoholism? Maybe he just had a natural death? Maybe it was a disease or something. Not everyone has to have a dramatic death, guys. And that's about it. If you want me to do other videos on this topic, let me know. Otherwise, let me know if you like my theories and want me to do more stuff on Hazbin Hotel. But until then, keep on studying.